Welcome RPA champions, I am the RPA champion, and in today's video we are going to be learning how to read and send emails using a Power Automate robot. No coding experience will be required for this one, only two things. You must have a master's in quantum physics, and the second thing, you must have some knowledge in advanced calculus. Now with those two requirements checked, you will be able to follow along, no problem. Now, Power Automate Desktop will enable to automate virtually any email-related process through three ways: web emails, Outlook, and Exchange server. Now, there is specific actions that we will be learning in this video, such as retrieving, sending, and processing emails using those three that I mentioned just now. Now, let's jump into the video and create an automation that will reply automatically to specific emails, and in the process, you will learn Power Automate, some tips and tricks and suggestions that I have learned over the months of using Power Automate Desktop. Now also give yourself a high five, and that is because you are learning automation. You will probably not be replaced by a bot. If you have an office job, you will be the one that is creating those bots. Now there is currently approximately 9 million bots in production according to a Gartner research. So this number is only growing, so it is good to be learning this. Without further ado, let's get the ball going and create our automation desktop robot that will solve our problem of replying to specific emails. So the first thing that we're going to be doing in our Power Automate is creating a new flow from scratch, calling it email handling. This is going to be the flow that is going to hold all of our actions that are going to be handling our emails, like reading, deleting, sending emails. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to be doing is we have to retrieve the emails. So we have to connect to the server. Let's look for the action that is going to allow us to retrieve email messages. We add this to our process flow and then we configure it. It is very easy to configure. The first thing that we have to do is set up the IMAP and the SMTP servers. Now you probably heard about this. The IMAP is just a server that's going to allow you to read emails, and the SMTP is going to allow you to send emails. Now we are going to insert our credentials and our password. Now keep in mind that this email that I'm using is only for testing. Also keep in mind that if you haven't updated your Power Automate desktop, you will be typing in plain text right now. All of the other things, you can leave them as default. You should just specify the mail folder from which you need to retrieve the emails. That is the only requirement. For now, you can leave all of the fields blank, but do keep in mind that if you have 1,000 messages in your email and you leave it just like this, it is going to retrieve all of your email messages, and it might cause a timeout, or your process might take a really long time. So do specify some emails, or do be specific when you're retrieving emails. All of the emails are going to be saved in a variable that is going to be called retrieved emails, and this is going to contain all of the different emails that we are going to extract from our email. So this is how easy it is to be working with emails. Now we're going to be looking at processing emails: reply, delete, move, and mark. Now this is going to allow us to work with our emails. So once we have retrieved them, we can send them, we can reply to them, we can move them, and so forth. Now the first thing that we need to do is we need to define the email message that we want to process, and we get this from our variables. And next we have a few options that we can do. So we are going to work on the retrieved emails, and we're going to move all of these emails inside of the inbox folder. So from the archive folder, we're going to move all of the emails inside of the inbox folder, or from the retrieved emails. Now to do that, we have to connect to the IMAP server. Now I think it's going to be a good idea to set some variables for this, so that we don't have to input this information all the time. So let's set some variables. Let's set the first variable. This is going to be the IMAP server. And just as a reminder from previously, the IMAP server is used to retrieve emails from the server. And you can use the Gmail, you can use the Outlook, you can use the Yahoo, you can use whatever service provider provides IMAP server to connect. You can use it here. There is some issues with Google. I will get into that later in the video. So let's set also the variable for the SMTP server, and let's move them all the way to the top of the page so that we can set first all of the variables, and then we can use the different variables inside of our process. So once we have the variables at the top of the page, we can go inside of our different actions, and we can also change the names. Let's name this something meaningful so that we don't get confused. And once we have named it something meaningful, we can also change it to SMTP. That is perfect. That is going to allow us to send emails. Now let's configure our actions that we have previously added, that is to retrieve emails and to process emails. Now the first action is giving us errors. Well, the last action is giving us errors, but we will get into that in a second. Now there is a way to store our account information that is smarter than just setting variables, and we are going to use the input and output. So we're going to create an input variable. Inside of this input variable, we're going to create a password. We're going to set the secure text field so that nobody can see what we are typing inside, and after that we are going to describe that this is going to be the password of the account. Now we are using this as a global variable or an input and output, meaning that you can get it from an outside process, or maybe from the cloud. For example, from Flow in the cloud can pass you this credentials, or another process. We are just saving it right now with the default value, meaning that is like a global variable. Now keep in mind that you can use this inside of your processes if you need a variable to be accessible by all of the different subflows, or if you are expecting it to get it from outside. Now by doing this, we have set our two account variables. Now we can use them inside of our flow. We can see that the input and output variables are right there. So if we select them, we will be able to use them and insert them directly inside of the configuration to retrieve email messages. So once we have retrieved the email messages, once we have configured, added our variables for the different information, here we should use the variable that we have created. Now to select the variable, it's very easy. We just click on the X and we select the variable that we want to use. All of the other information can stay default, even though it is still good to be a little bit more specific, so that the process doesn't time out. After that, we are also going to configure our processing emails. So we are going to do the same thing that we did in the retrieving of emails. So once we have configured also the account and the password, we can start using the process email messages. Process email messages is going to allow us to do bulk or single individual actions on our email, on our messages inside of our email box, saving us loads of time for different activities. Now, based on the different conditions that we can set up, we can have it do different actions. Right now, it is just going to move the messages inside of the archive folders, inside of the messages in the inbox folder. How it's going to do that? It is going to retrieve them inside with the retrieve action. It is going to put them inside of a variable, and after that, it is going to pass that variable of all of those email messages to the next action, which is processing the email, and is going to move them inside of the inbox folder. So from the archive into the inbox. And we see that this is actually taking a little bit of time. Why? Because we are right now using webmail. We are connecting to Outlook online via the IMAP server. So it is taking some time to retrieve all of the messages. It has retrieved all of the messages. Now, if we go back to Outlook, we will see what is happening inside of our inbox. Now we can see that the messages are being slowly transferred. There is nothing inside of our archive, and they are slowly being transferred inside of our inbox. So this is happening as the robot is processing. It's taking a little bit, there is a little bit of latency, so that is why we are seeing those effects. We can also click on the variable of retrieved emails to see more information about the emails. So remember that this is not just a simple variable, this is an array. So you can access all of this information inside of this array. You can access information like body, the attachment, date, from who it was sent, so that you can really be specific inside of your different conditions if you really need to extract different information or you need to do different actions based on a specific email. All right, let's test our knowledge. So, through which platform does Power Automate Desktop support email handling? Webmail services is Microsoft Outlook, or the above to and Exchange server? What do you think? You can type the answer right below, or it will appear on the screen in a few seconds. So it is pretty simple. Right now we have seen webmail services. Right now, after this, we are going to see how we're going to use Power Automate to connect to Microsoft Outlook. And in the end, we're also going to see how to use Exchange servers. So these are the three ways that you can retrieve emails. And now let's move on to the next way. So in this following way, we are going to first finalize and see how we can use the SMT server with the sending email action. So what we're just going to do is from our webmail, we are going to test that everything is working by sending a test email. So as usual, we have to connect to the different information of our account so that we can connect the SMTP server. And after that, we are going to leave most of the parameters as default, except the security parameters. So once we have set up all of our account information, we can finally send an email. So let's just make sure that everything is set up correctly, and it looks like everything is set up correctly. This is going to be quite a plain message, nothing fancy. Let's save this and let's test our process once again. Now we can run the process from here. Well, actually we cannot. Do you know why? We cannot run it from here because we are using variables. So we are using the set variable, and if we don't run the process from the beginning, we are not going to be the variable is not going to be set, therefore our process is going to break. Now let's go and change this. We should change this inside, not inside of our process, but we should just disable the two activities before. So let's save this and let's disable the two activities before and test this process. So let's do this very quickly, and this is how you would disable two activities, and let's run the process and see if it's working. So it has set the two variables very quickly, and now it's connecting to the server, and let's see inside of our Outlook if it has sent an email. Now I am reading Outlook emails, but this would work. This way of sending emails would work even if you don't have Outlook or if you don't have any email account available. So it has worked. We have managed to send an email. Now let's move all this information inside of a subflow just to keep things clean and simple, and also to have this maybe for a future reference or for future use. This is our information is already configured, the variables are already configured, so it could be handy to have this saved in a subflow so that we can use it later as well. Now let's move all of the everything except the set variables inside of the new subflow that we have created. Once we have moved our activities to the subflow and we have our main clean, now we need to look for an action that is going to allow us to run the subflow from our main flow. Now we are doing this just for cleanliness and cleanliness so that we keep things organized, and also so that we can reuse later on these actions that we are creating in this process. So that's why we're going to create them nice and clean so that we can reuse them in the future. So from our main flow, if we add the runs subflow and we disable it, it will be like nothing has ever happened. And now we can go on and create our other part of the process. In this part of the process, we are going to be reading emails with an Outlook account. So if you have Outlook installed on your computer, or a mail provider like Outlook, well, only if you have Outlook, you will be able to follow along. Now you can connect different email accounts to Outlook. You can connect Gmail, you can connect your own accounts with your own extensions, and by using this method, you can connect to any account via your Outlook. It will be also much faster than connecting to the webmail when you are connecting to Outlook directly. The process is pretty much the same, except we have to add the activities of launching and opening Outlook. So this will be the Outlook that I will be opening. So we have tested this and it seems like it's working. So it is opening Outlook, it is waiting for 3 seconds, and it's closing Outlook. These are the main actions that we need to create just to make sure that Outlook is working properly. Now the next actions will be just like for the previous example. We have to read the messages that we have in our inbox. We have to identify these messages, but before, let's add our account. Now fortunately we added our account as a global variable so that we can use it all throughout our process. Now we need to also add the folder, and let's add the folder. And we can also configure other parameters as well, such as the details of the email, from who it was sent to who it should be sent, so that we can be really specific with what kind of emails we want the robot to extract from. And obviously everything will be saved in the retrieved email number 2, because this is the second one of these actions that we have. Now, if we continue and we repeat the actions that we have done previously, so with this action we are going to be retrieving all of the messages. The next action that we have to choose from is the send email messages. So let's add that one. And remember, from previously, to retrieve we use the IMAP, and to send messages we use the SMTP server. Now in our example, or in this case, we don't need to configure these because we are using directly Outlook, and Power Automate is connecting directly to Outlook. So the only thing that you need is the account that you wish to use to send the emails. Now previously I have used the account, my previous account, which was a test account, but it was an Outlook account. So in this example I will change that account to my to another account, just to show you that we can use whatever account with this. So I have changed it to my personal account that is managed by webmasters of Google. So it's a Google, it's hosted on the Google servers. I will leave all of the other fields empty, and I will do the same for the send email. So my account is connected to Outlook, so this will be possible. I will be able to retrieve all of the email messages, and I will also be able to send email messages via Outlook and not via webmail. And this allows me to use any kind of email that I have connected to Outlook. Now that is very important to remember. So let's play this process and see what happens. So I do have a relatively large inbox, so this might take some time. However, since we are connecting directly to Outlook, it is not taking that much time to get all of the emails and also to send a test email. This was actually very simple. Obviously, just like with the previous example, we can go into the details of our variable and we can see the other property. This is the email that was just now sent via this flow, so we know that it works well. We can also use the option of responding to messages. Now attention here, this is a little bit peculiar. I haven't found any documentation about this, and this had me a little bit lost. So when you want to select, so you would select your account, you would select the Outlook instance on which you're working, and then if you want to select what mail messages, you would see that there is no option to select anything. So there is no option because we haven't created a loop. Now we need to create a loop that is going to iterate through all of the messages that are inside of our inbox, and send this email as many times as there are messages inside of the inbox. So what we need to do is we need to search for loops, and let's add a for each loop. For each loop, because we want our action or our flow to iterate on every single message. So let's select the retrieve emails to, that is the variable that we are getting produced in the received mail messages from Outlook, and let's move this inside of our flow. But before, now if we go back to our action, we can see that we have the current items iteration. So this is going to iterate over the current items. So the current item is set to received emails to, or retrieved emails to, and now we can configure all of the properties of responding to these messages. So we are going to get the messages and we can respond to them however we wish inside of this loop. And I will just add some sample text just to make this email a little bit more unique. So once all of this is configured, let's just make sure that all of the details that we are getting the specific email. We don't want to reply to every single email. So right now I've added some things inside of the different parameters, so just that I can be specific. And you can use this as well with your processes. You want to find the really specific emails to which you would like to answer and reply to. So you can be as specific as you want, and you can also use variables and conditions and if statements and so on. So we have seen that we have run the process. It has worked just fine. It retrieved the emails, it sent the email message, and it also responded to the Outlook message. Now if I go to my email folder and I go inside of the Skype, I can see inside of the sent folder that this email was sent successfully to this account. So with that we have completed two ways of sending email messages. One is via webmail, where we connect to the SMT server and to the other server, the SMT and the IMAP server, to retrieve and to send emails. The other way was that we've opened Outlook on our computer, and based on the accounts that are set up on Outlook, we selected the account that we wanted and we used that account to send emails. The main differences between the two is that the first one is not going to work with Gmail and might not also work with some other email providers. Why? Because just of the settings that are changing. So right now Gmail is going through a process of change, and some of those configurations, even though you enable IMAP and SMTP in the Gmail settings, it still might not work. Well, it did not for me, but you can use Outlook and you can connect your Gmail to Outlook and you can still make it work like that. Now the next thing, now we have once again, just like previously, we have created a new subfolder. We have moved all of our actions inside of the subflow folder just to make it nice and clean, and so that we can reference it later on in the future. Now the last thing that we should do is I want to show you a last example of how you could, another way of how you could connect to your email provider, get all of the emails, use them, and send messages with them. Obviously, if none of these methods work, you can also use a more traditional approach, meaning you can just spy the different elements on the web page and extract the elements and the emails that you need like this. However, this way is much more reliable, much less development, and so forth. Now this last method is going to be when we connect to the Exchange server. Now I don't have the Exchange server connected, but I will show you the different actions that you need to put in order to connect to the Exchange server. Now it is very straightforward, and I would like to say that it is very similar to the previous example. Now once we add the connect to Exchange server, we just have to add our email address here. I will test this out with my email address, but obviously I don't have an Exchange server, so this is not going to work. Obviously, if you do have the Exchange server, this is as much configuration as you will have to do to connect to the Exchange server and be able to retrieve emails from the Exchange server. Now, just to test this, just to make sure that it's not working, even though I'm pretty sure that it's not working, it will probably go into timeout, or the connection will be refused because I have not an account on this. So overall, I really wanted to clarify that there is different ways of sending emails. There is really no best way. The best way is obviously the most stable and most reliable way. And here we can see that the issue was that I didn't have that account. Now, thank you so much for watching so far. I just wanted to emphasize that in this video we have seen three main ways of sending email messages. Now, as I was saying previously, there is no one best way. The best way depends on what is more reliable, what is more stable, and what requires least development. Now, after this video, I am planning on creating another video where we are going to be using email and we are going to be connecting to some celebrities that we find online. So we are going to use a robot to identify anybody's email out there, and then we are going to use another robot to send this person an email on a daily basis. Now, to be able to follow along with that video, you will have to know the things that we've seen in this video, so it is good that you go over different things and you are familiar with email handling. Ladies and gentlemen, RPA champions, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel not to miss any more great content like this, and I wish you a happy day and happy developing. Thank you so much.